You guys all hear me? Yeah. That doesn't sound very convincing. Okay, I'll proceed. There you go. So I want to begin with a short anecdote. Ever since 6th grade, I competed in a competition called Scenario. The basic premise of this competition was you had to write a short story that was 1,500 words or less on a particular topic. And this topic could range from many things, such as intellectual property, cybersecurity, space junk, the global status of women, and the list goes on. Well, 4 years ago, I met one of my elementary school teachers at one of the scenario writing state competitions. And in our brief conversation, she asked me what I wanted to become when I grew up. I don't exactly remember what I said, but I know it was something along the lines of engineer. However, I do remember quite clearly what her response was. Don't you want to become an author? You write well. My initial reaction was nothing more than a skeptical, half-hearted shrug. I mean, I'd been doing all right in the competition. I'd never actually won first place or anything, and honestly, I just wrote stories I thought were interesting, not ones that were on the par of novels or sagas. So I awkwardly slipped out of that situation to live another day. But at the end of that day, I came home a gloomy creature. I hadn't done as well as I'd wanted to in the competition. And so after an hour of sobbing to myself, I suddenly got an idea. I would take up my elementary school teacher on her offer. I was going to write a story. So I ran to the drawer, grabbed a wad of paper this big, grabbed a pen, locked myself in a room, and proceeded to stare at a blank sheet of paper for a very long time. You see, there was just a slight problem. I didn't have a beginning. I didn't have an end. And I most surely didn't have a middle. And that doesn't leave very much to build off of, if you ask me. But needless to say, this was the fruit of my efforts in 3 years. That's right, I published my first novel and was already making plans for a sequel. In case you're curious, they're both murder mysteries. Somehow, writing fiction had become an essential part of who I was. So, let's start off with the basics. What is fiction? Well, fiction is writing that is often characterized as unreal or imaginative, as opposed to writing that is strictly fact-based. But what that definition fails to account for is the fact that fiction is fundamentally grounded in the facts. Take the story of Rapunzel, for example. Obviously, the idea of a teenager who has hair that runs the length of a long, tall tower, and the idea of an evil witch are obviously unreal and imaginative. But the fundamental premise of the story, that a young girl is sentenced to isolation and desires freedom, is inherent in our society. Just take a look at any teenager in our present-day society. They desire freedom from the confines of their parents' rules. And like that, Rapunzel is just a manifestation of this truth, just spun in a magical context. But fiction is more than just a way to demonstrate the world's truth in a different light. It's a way in which you can gain a great appreciation for the world around you. For example, when I wrote my novel, I was inevitably demonstrating the real-world ideas of murder and criminal justice. But more importantly, I began to understand with greater appreciation the difficulty of detective work and analytical thinking, as the main character of my story has to solve two very difficult cases. I became a collector of sorts, jotting down ideas that piqued my interest, or were simply too mesmerizing to ignore. And thus, I became a stamp collector. A stamp collector being someone who fills notebooks and binders even with stamps that they've collected. Like that, whenever I came across an idea that was interesting, that instantly became a candidate for being incorporated into my novel. For example, a hot pursuit in the novel is based off of the car chase in The Dark Knight Rises. The summer heat is based off of how hot it was during one of the summers when I was writing. And like this, there are many examples. A cranky old lady, an impregnable gang that monetizes crime. All of these were spawned from real-world occurrences and ideas that I came across. And thus, fiction is for anybody. It's all out there for each of us. All we need to do is just look at the world around us to find what interests us. To write an interesting story, be that a short story or a saga. Of course, this raises the question, what should people write about? Better stated, it goes more along the lines of, what if I have nothing to write about? The answer, you always have something to write about. You always have a story to tell, regardless of your background, your viewpoints, or your writing ability. Now that may seem kind of far-fetched for some of you, considering that the last time you read something for pleasure was in middle school. And I'm not even going to venture to ask the last time you wrote something narrative. But nonetheless, we all have a story to tell. How you interact with the world around you, how you perceive the world around you, and what you think of the world around you are all you need to write a compelling story. Just walking down Bruin Walk will show you this. Now, let's say, for example, you're on your merry way to class. Obviously, you're running late, but you don't care. It's a math discussion. And you look over your shoulder, and suddenly you see a skateboarder racing towards you, and it's about to run you over. Sorry if I didn't mention that earlier. Alarmed, you jump out of the way just in the nick of time, and you give him the evil eyes and disappears into the distance. Now, your usual reaction to this would be to either, shake your head in disappointment, or maybe rant about it to your friend. But that would be it. And then the next day it's just rinse and repeat. The skateboarder comes again, you nearly get run over, and you just shake your head in disappointment, or rage about it to your friend. Now, what if you wrote a fictional story about this? You have all the elements you need. A protagonist, main character, you. A climactic event, nearly getting running over. And a message. Just because you have the high ground doesn't mean you have the right to run me over. Okay. You get what I mean, though. You can write a story about social oppression. How people are seen sometimes simply as stepping stones, not as actual living beings. Of course, the incident was just about almost getting run over by a skateboarder. But with fiction, you can inject elements that you feel are appropriate, the ones that you've collected. For example, the partiality of the criminal justice system towards race, the unequal opportunities for women in the workforce, the growing inequality of wealth in our society. All of these are present-day ideas that you can incorporate into your story. And there you have it, a full-fledged story. It doesn't need to be a novel or a saga. It can just be a short story, 1,500 words or less. Now you might say to yourself, oh, well, I'm not that great at writing. And while it may make argumentation hard, it doesn't disqualify you from writing fiction. You see, we all are storytellers, regardless of our writing ability. And granted, our styles may be different, but we all can most definitely narrate stories to one another. By show of hands, how many of you have ever posted something to Facebook or Snapchat? Believe it or not, you guys are all storytellers. And fiction is just another way to hone in on that inherent ability to tell stories. But it's more than just that. Fiction isn't just a way to improve your writing ability or your ability to tell stories. It's a way in which you can learn more and more about the things you stand for. When you become that stamp collector and look at the world around you for what interests you, what makes you tick, you learn more and more about what your core principles are. And that's a fascinating path to self-discovery. You learn more and more about what things you hold dear to your heart. And thus, fiction is for anybody and everybody. Everybody has something to gain from it. So I ask you this, what story will you tell? Thank you.